Good morning, everybody. So welcome to the Civil Court. So today's my plan is to introduce the Vietnamese Civil Court so you can know the structures of the legislator when they try to design the Civil Court. So basically the Civil Court will concern to the problem of establishment and implementation and protection of civil rights, and thus conclude individuals, legal entity, property, ownership right and other right with respect to property, liability for compensation for non-contractual damages, obligation and contract, and other right with respect to property. So now we go to detail of the civil. And here is the case. The first part from Article 1, Article 7, the general provision of applicability, recognition, respect, protection, insurance, and civil rights. The basic principle of civil rights. Article 4, application of the civil court. Article 5, application of customary practice. Application of analogous law, state policy in respect of civil relations. Chapter 2, they deal with the establishment, implementation, protection of civil rights. The base for establishment of civil rights, performance of civil rights, limit to performance of civil rights, method to protect civil rights, the self-defense of civil rights, compensation for loss or damage, protection of civil rights via competent agency, and revocation of a particular illegal decision of a competent person, agency, or organization. Chapter 3, the deal with individual, legal capacity and capacity for civil act of individuals, civil legal capacity of the individual, content of civil legal capacity of individuals, no restriction on civil legal capacity of individuals, capacity for civil act of individuals. Also, they deal with the problem of adult, minor, loss of capacity for civil act, person with difficulty in awareness or control of his or her own act, restricted capacity for civil act, personal right, right to have in a surname and given names, right to change the surname, right to change the names, the right to identification and re-identification for ethnicity, right to declaration of birth and death, right to nationality, right of individual respect to his or her image, right to live, right to safety of life, health, and physical body, right to protection of honor, dignity, and reputation, right to donate and receive tissue and body organs and to donate intact body, right to establish gender transformation, right to private life, personal privacy, and family privacy, personal rights in marriage and family, place of precedence of individuals, minors, wards, husband and wife, military personnel, individual performance, itinerant occupation. Also, they talk about a guardianship, ward, guardian, Condition for individual to act as guardians. Supervision of guardians. Natural guardian of minor. Natural guardian of person having lost his or her capacity for civil act. Nomination and appointment of guardian. Obligation of guardian with respect to minor under 15 years of age, from 15 years of to 18 years of age. Respect to work having lost capacity for civil act of having difficulty in awareness or control of their own act. Right of guardians. Management property of guardian. Search for notice person absent from place of residence. Declaration of missing person. Declaration of death. And chapter 4, legal entity. Legal entity. Commercial legal entity. Non-commercial legal entity. Chart of legal entity. Name, the head office, nationality, asset, establishment and registration legal entity. Representative, civil legal capacity, civil liability, consolidation, merge, demerger, conversion, dissolution, settlement of asset, bankruptcy, and termination of existence of legal entity. And then the chapter 6, family household, cooperative groups and other organizations without legal entity status in civil relation. Chapter 7, property. Property, property registration, immovable property and movable property, existing property and property to be formed in the future, benefit and income, primary object and auxiliary object, divisible object and indivisible object, consumable object and non-consumable object, generic object and distinctive object, integrated object and property right. About a civil transaction. Condition for effective civil transaction, form, condition, interpretation, invalid civil transaction, and legal consequences of invalidity of civil transaction. Chapter 9, representation. Representation, term of representation, scope of representation. Time limit and limitation period. What about time limit? Limitation period. Part 2, ownership and other right with respect to property. Ownership right, protection of ownership right and other right with respect to property. Possession, the concept, the bona fide possession. Possession not in good faith, continuous possession, overt connection, assumption of status of right of possessor, protection of possession. Ownership right, the right to use of owners, right to use of person not being owner, right of disposal, form of ownership, ownership by the entire people, private ownership, multiple ownership, creation and termination ownership right, termination ownership right, other right with respect to property. And here we have some special things like usufruct right, service right, very special in the civil law. Part 3, obligation and contract. Performance of obligation, security performance obligation, some type of security, scope of security obligation, case of realization of security property, pledge of property, pledge of property, effective of pledge of property, mortgage of property, performance bond, security bonds, and escrow deposit, reserve of ownership, guarantee, fidelity guardianship, retaining property, civil property, civil right, termination obligation. And then we had performance contract, a common contract, the say contract, contract for exchange of property, contract for gifts, for loans, for lease of property, contract for borrowing property, contract on land use right, cooperation contract, transport contract, processing contract, contract for payment of property, authorization contract. And then we talk about loss and damages. In the non-contractual damages, we call a tort law. Inheritance, heirs, inheritance under wills, inheritance at law, settlement and distribution estate, and last one, Part 5, law applicable to civil relation involving foreign element. So that's everything about the civil court overview. And if you have any information, please contact me. More detail. Thank you.